Adam. And so I put out a message and said, hey, it's all, acquisition's all about punk rock. And then Dan Ward here, who's joining us on the stage. Thank you, Dan. Said, hey, Ben, I really like that, but your clicker doesn't work again. So I wrote an article already on it. Freaking Dan Ward. Click. So Dan Ward informed me that my punk rock idea was plagiarism. He had already written this article years before because he's much, much older than I. And it was a fantastic article. And then Mike, who I didn't know here, sent me a message and said, hey man, I used to rock back in the day and I ended up in this defense acquisition thing. And I said, Mike, I don't know who the hell you are. And he said, well, we're going to do a panel together at DEF. And that sounded cool. And then Dan knew Lauren, and he said, you got to get Lauren, because she rocks out, and she's from Naval X. And so we decided we would do a panel. Please hold your applause to the end. So I'm happy everyone's boozing it up. Come in and out of here nonstop, please. So that was the preface for this. We're going to sit down. I'm going to let these folks introduce themselves. Here's the key. I'm going to show you some super old, as we all are, old and super embarrassing pictures, all right, of how we became badasses. So up on the tweet feed here, you know, hashtag DEF2019. Let's see where you came from, man. All right? Let's see that Run DMC jumpsuit you were wearing back in the 80s, Shot Heritage. Come on, get it up there on the wall. We know it exists. We know it exists. All right. So let's introduce ourselves. Sir.
So Mike Schmidt, Microsoft. Met everybody, I guess, earlier on the diversity and inclusion panel. So yeah, this is just awesome. I'm glad we're doing this. This is just fantastic.
All right, you know me. You?
My name is Tink. I do have a real name, but I won't tell you what it is. You weren't supposed to say! I am currently detailed to Naval X and am a giant metalhead, as one might have noticed. I also like Louise from Bob's Burgers.
I'm Fake Nan Ward, also known as Heath Murray from the Bloomington Agora in Indiana, representing the Midwest Mafia here. We're rolling deep. I talked my way up on stage tonight because I too am a huge metalhead.
All right, so we got together talking about this, and if you get a chance to read Dan's article, or if you had a chance to see this TED Talk, or if you had a chance to talk to any of these people up here, we spent a lot of our childhood playing in bands, getting in trouble, and forming beliefs, which led to getting in more trouble. And now it's bled over into our jobs, including Gina obviously played something because she's loud up here. So we thought it'd be fun to talk about how all that old troublemaking has influenced what we do today. And we brought some fun stuff to show to you all. I'm expecting that tweet wall to blow up, all right? Come on, somebody did crisscross close backwards at some point in their life. That happened. Oh, yeah, that's fantastic. And that needs to be up there, so get it up there. All right, so I'll just kick off briefly. Mike really had the idea for this, and it was fantastic. Really said, hey, the people that are disrupting the hardest are the people that are genuine and they're really willing to tell you, hey, I was a big nerd and this was what I was into in my life. We're definitely all big nerds up here. I'm going to show you my cool old pics and not my band nerd pics from marching band. You're not going to see those today. So here's 1994. I'm the gentleman there with the double mohawk, right, shaded down the middle. I also kept the devil lock in the front there, all right. The piece that I'm going to be horribly embarrassed about on here is the caption from the high school yearbook, okay? Ben McMartin in his innovative hair at the battle. He was the drummer of the Foreskins. There wasn't 4 people in the band, all right? This is actually in the yearbook. This is in the yearbook. Can you believe it? The Foreskins performed Courage of Troll. That was our awesome original that we had, okay? Here's my yearbook picture from the same year. If you saw the TED Talk, or if you didn't, I'll tell you, I spent many a night in high school playing out somewhere. I had a rough night this night, and I wore some sunglasses to school. And this is my first lesson in beating back the machine, is this picture right here. So I came in, and I found out that it was picture day at 7 o'clock, and I was in no condition to be taking a picture at 7 o'clock. So I had these sunglasses on. And it also looks like I got a badass turtleneck in there, which should have been a few years earlier with the gold chain. Everyone had the turtleneck and the gold chain. So I wore the sunglasses. The person taking the pictures was obviously annoyed with me and took the picture of the sunglasses. So what do you think happened from there? Someone called my mom, right? Hey, Ben came to school. He didn't follow the rules, and now we can't use this picture because it has sunglasses on, and that is not acceptable. But it's also where I learned the first lesson of bureaucracy, which is you can wait out bureaucracy, all right? So if you don't answer the phone for a while, if you avoid people in the halls for a while, sooner or later, picture guy, he's got a wife and kids at home, and he's got a job, and he doesn't care about the punk kid from the high school who wore the sunglasses, and they will put that picture in eventually. Even though they tell you they won't, and they're going to suspend you and all this other crap, they will put that picture in there. And then you'll have it for years. You'll be able to pull it out at some professional conference to embarrass yourself. So I can tell you that in DOD, my experience is that this is very true. People have jobs and they have stuff to do. And one of my favorite techniques is to wait out the bureaucracy. People will give up eventually. It may take a couple years. There may be a lot of pain. The IG may come knock on your door, but they will give up eventually. All right, so you have a story for me, Gina?
My mom told me, I will send you back to India. And I said, I was born here.
Man, I will send you back to India. Can we get that on the tweet wall? Gina says, I will send you back to India. Part of the culture panel. Look at this. What was that? Yes, long hair, don't care. Woo. All right, I've talked enough. I'm going to pass it on to the next person, which, let's see who we got here. I think it's going to be you, Mike.
Okay. Let her flip. I swore I would never show these pictures. So this is me about, 20 some odd years ago. I was about 17, 18 years old, playing in a rock band, and we were, we would tour around a lot. I was like in high school, I want to say, and we got to play with some pretty big acts. We cut a record, and it was a fun time, I would say. But what I learned during that experience, being 17, 18 years old, you're most of the time, most kids are probably just like, spring break or just football games or whatever. No, we were like out there like hustling, like publishing records, and like we played with like national acts. We went on tour and shit. It was what national acts? I think I'm gonna, well, all right, yeah, whatever. Marilyn Manson? Typo negative? Anyone? Yes. Peter Steele, I have to say, great guy. I was sad when he died. He was such a great guy, and yeah. Actually, it was a funny story about Peter Steele. So we were getting signed to a record label, and we were opening for them, And I remember I went over to his tour bus and I said, dude, we're getting signed. We played our second gig with y'all. And, of course, we're playing with you again now. And we're getting signed. And he was like, and the advice that he gave me was, get a lawyer. He got screwed like on so many record deals, and I think, and unfortunately, he died when he was in his 50s. So it's a hard life. It really is. So I was in, we hustled hard, and a lot of DIY, a lot of putting together, makeshift studios, recording studios. It was enjoyable, but that whole mindset of like DIY, going after like and building like code and getting it in front of the right folks. You just have to, that whole innovator ecosystem, that disruption, that came, I credit that experience. So the picture on the right with me and with the HoloLens, that was the first time I put on a HoloLens, and I was like, this is the best thing ever. And I was just like, bloom. So I was just like so impressed with it. And we, shortly thereafter, I ran a project to build an app on that for autism. So the experiences that you have in your young life, bring them forward, bring your creative self to your work, because it will add value, truly, the good, the bad, the ugly, bring it. So that's it.
All right, I want to see this wall filling up. Where's this wall at?
Some pretty sweet stuff coming through.
I mean, come on. All right, I'm going to pass it off to you.
Sweet.
I'm not gonna name drop you like some people do.
I don't think I have any pictures. I'll just have to post those later randomly. But, oh dear Jesus. That's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
Miller is going to post them for you right now.
Oh, fun. Okay. So, unlike I think everyone else on the stage, I am going through the I'm in a band thing right now, which is super fun and ridiculous, and we don't do anything with like big awesome things like Marilyn Manson. We're like, I play in a backyard for my friends and sometimes at breweries. But a lot of the things that kind of talked about today, one of the things that resonated really with me, and I think I realized this as we're going through this whole band thing, is that we in the diversity and inclusion panel, someone said you have to ask your people to see what they want, or else you don't know what to give them. And I think with punk and metal and any sort of musical genre of any kind, you have to take the feedback of your audience, or else they won't come to see you, right? So I think that's kind of the same thing. We realize so metal and punk are very similar, but I think the difference is that punk is like, there's no children in here, right? Or any of my coworkers, except for that one. Punk is like, fuck you, the man. I say that, and we all kind of indirectly or directly work for that man. So I find that funny. But metal it has that, but I think it's also more about the epicness and the experience and the technical challenge, which I think kind of is encompassed by a lot of this whole innovation stuff, right? Innovation is, buzzword. But anyway, but metal and punk both are like, I'm going to play what I want to play, and I don't care what you think, or what you think, you're going to listen to it. But like as you start to perform for people, so we play what we want for ourselves, but then as you start to perform for people, you find out simply from their reaction whether you did a good job or not. And if that song was terrible, you won't play it again. But it's natural, right? So when you're playing in a band, and I think everyone on stage can back me up on this, is that if you play something that sucks real hard, you are not going to play that again. For example, there's a song that we play by a lady I can't remember because I'm a metalhead, and when we cover pop songs, I'm like, I know this song, but I don't remember anything about it. After I learned the words once and then played it because it was funny to cover a pop song in a metal style with an acoustic band. Just go to metalfun.com. And not a shameless plug at all, but we covered the song, and it's fun for us to play, but I can't sing the first like 2 phrases of it because I always start on the wrong note. And if you're musical at all, it will bother the shit out of you. And you'll be like, this sucks and I'm never doing it again. Oh, there's a picture of me. Don't look at that. So we don't play that song very much because for the people that doesn't really resonate because I suck at the first half of the song. So the songs that we'll play, for example, if you went to Virginia Tech, you'll know one Metallica song. You probably don't know any other Metallica songs unless you're a metalhead. Does anyone know what that song is? Crickets. Yeah, we're the only ones that know. Enter Sandman is the song that gets played at the beginning of football games for Virginia Tech. I think it has also been like commandeered for other, from what I understand, because I'm like, yay, sports ball. Like I didn't go to Virginia Tech for sports. I went to Virginia Tech for real nerdy shit. But we play Enter Sandman not because we do enjoy playing it, but it's not our best song and it's not our favorite song to play, but everybody knows it. And the immediate feedback that we get is, yeah, I resonate with that song. I connect with you because you're playing a song that I know. And I think that's a lesson that we can take back as our, professional adult selves. Not very professional or adult, don't tell anyone. But we can take that back into our work lives. Don't laugh at me. We can take that back into our work lives. But the interesting thing about the music part, and I'm rambling, so I'm going to stop, is that it's automatic. And so I think for us, we see it immediately that, we got to change that. And we see it sort of automatically, whereas if you don't have something to connect with that, it might not be automatic, but I think that lesson is very apparent to us. That it's like, we should not be doing that. Let's go back to the drawing board. Ask the Tang to help us out for something else because this is not working. Okay, I'm done now. Thank you.
So that's going to be tough to follow, considering I just kind of bullshitted my way up here. So I look at bureaucracy like a mosh pit, which I think is what we all agree with. Is you try to get in the mosh pit and you catch an elbow to the face, you go back, you keep going forward, and you keep catching elbows to the face, but eventually you get included in that mosh pit, and it's the coolest freaking thing in the world. So you bleed a little bit, you sweat a little bit, but you keep going forward. And with the metal and the punk rock scene is you have to continue, you're always going to be that counterculture, but now we are part of that culture. But I think we can still carry the qualities of the metal and punk rock scenes that we grew up with into our everyday lives. And we have to continue doing that and keep fighting against it and now using the professionalism where we're at now. So essentially getting to be up here and being part of DEF, and you'll see that being in the punk rock scene and then the deep metal scene is there's always a competition of who's more metal, who's more punk rock. And as I mentioned this morning, we can't get into that. Everybody has to be metal. Everybody has to be punk rock. Because if not, somebody's always going to say, well, I'm more metal than you. I'm more punk rock than you. We're more innovative than you. It's a disgusting word I found out. But we have to continue including everybody in that. And that's what I think is great about this DEF community and fighting, this insurgency and getting into it is making sure we aren't competing against each other and we're all metal, we're all punk rock.
Oh, wait, hold on. What?
That gentleman has a question.
He does.
What was your story about sweating?
This has 100% nothing to do with innovation. I just want everyone to know that the mosh pit in a metal show is less stinky than a pop show. And just saying, it's a bunch of sweaty dudes. Related. So one thing that is, I did find a relation. I did. I did find a way to tie this together. Yes. Hold on while I think of it, because it's just there, and then it went here. There's wine in a cup behind me, and I'm like one drink person. Anyway, so I know, but then I related it to something else.
80s hair band?
No, but the mosh. One of the things about them. I do have hair that's could be like an 80s hair band, but I'm trying to grow out long. That's a sidebar. one of the cool things about the mosh pit is it's extremely inclusive. I don't think I've ever been in a mosh pit where someone has left me to die, which is a thing that you can do. Have you ever been to a Slayer show? I haven't, but some people have. Some people know, or have seen them on TV, or have listened to Jim Brewer talk about him in his stand-up, which is hilarious, and I highly recommend that you watch it. In the mosh pit, everyone picks up everyone else. Like, there's these giant dudes. I'm only like 5'5". Also, sidebar, I have like a tall person complex. Until I was in 6th grade, I was taller than everyone, and I'm actually shorter than average. But you have these huge guys in the mosh pit, and they're metal, and they're giant, and they're like going around, and who's been in a mosh pit before? Okay, this side of the room. Cool. This side of the room. This side of the room. You don't know what you're missing. So there's things that happen in a mosh pit. And normally I'm on the fringe of the mosh pit simply because I am old and I do not want to break things. That can happen. There's blood that does happen, so just so you know. But so on the outside of the mosh pit, you're like pushing people in, and it looks like if you are not a metalhead, you're like, or any mosh pit that happens, you're like, why are you trying to kill this person? This is a horrible idea. But if you've been at just one concert and you've seen this happen, everyone's kind of you'll get sections of jumping together, and then the mosh pit will start. And if anyone's under the age of 23 and half of them have X's on their hands because they're under 21, they go in this like super high velocity vortex. And I'm like, I am too old for this shit. I know I don't look old, but I am old. I am an old person, and I don't want any of that. I just want to hang out on the end, shove people back into the vortex, and they want it. They come around, and they're kind of like going in circles, and then you come around, and then they push you in. You're like, yeah! And they go, poof, and then they push you in, and you go back out. And that's what happens. And it's great because this person and that person are laughing hysterically, and they go around. But the thing is, this person, the fringe, me, knows that this person, you're probably in the mosh pit. So that was like the reverse.
I'm working my way out.
You're working your way out. Okay, fine. Fair point. You're in on the joke, basically, right? But you're in it together. And the person who's pushing and the person who's getting pushed know that this is a symbiotic relationship. And the person who's pushing is also looking out for that person. As soon as someone falls in a mosh pit, what happens all the time, right? This side? Can you please do that one more time? Stand up and show everyone what happens. Are you okay, man? I can't hear you. My earplugs aren't in. I don't know what's happening. Oh, you're like, I'm fine. It's great. Yeah. Like, that's what happens the entire time. I don't think I've seen anyone have any ill will against anyone. Against anyone. And I would contrast that with, and I apologize in advance for anyone who is a gymnast. I am not one, but my sister's a gymnast for decades, and she went on all these competitions, and meets, whatever. And this is only my personal experience, so I cannot talk for anyone else who's a gymnast, so I apologize in advance. There was so much catty backstabbing in that environment, and that's what I saw as a child. So when I got into the metal community as kind of like a young adult, high school to college to now continuing until I'm dead, it was so incredibly loving, and someone on the outside doesn't really see that. So there's kind of like a twofold thing, is that the inclusiveness of any community is huge, right? And it kind of bonds you together. But then the people on the outside, I would say that there's a lot of people who will look at any group of any kind and say, that's really scary, or I don't know what that is, and I don't want to touch any of it. I love what's happening over here. I'm sorry, if you're not looking, you should be. Please put that on the Twitter feed. But that being able to take a step back and say, well, what is actually happening in that community could be something very different from what you thought it was. Metal specifically is pretty awesome, and you should get into it. I am wearing a Sabaton shirt, for example. This is how we met today. And my shirt was closed, and all he saw was this part. In other news, I'm wearing a Necrogoblicon t-shirt, which is a hoodie, which is fantastic. You should also look at them. They sing about goblins exclusively.
Whole subgenre.
Yeah, the subgenre. Goblin metal is a thing. And they've liked some of my Instagram posts, so I'm fangirling out a lot. I see you. All he saw was this, and he was like, is that Miss Hal? I'm sorry. is that Sabaton? And I was like, yes! And it was like, yes! And it was very loud and it was very metal. But that's what happens in any community where you have that sort of shared experience. You're like, huh? Yes, I did! Yes, it is. And then there were 3. I know it is. Sidebar. The reason I wore this shirt, and I'm going to give this back to someone else, I swear. The reason I wore this shirt today is because Sabaton sings almost... First, they're amazing. They're an amazing intro metal band, so check it out. See, that song is called Devil Dogs. It's about the U.S. Marines. It's amazing. You should go listen to it as soon as this talk is over. And then go find someone. But they sing exclusively about history, specifically World War II, now World War I. Their newest album just came out. I'm not paid for this, but you should listen to it. But they sing all about history, and a lot of it is about things that the U.S. government, military, did in a lot of these fights. So, you know, it's got, I don't know what's happening up there. It's got lots of ties to what we're talking about, but I think I'm done, so I'm going to move on.
Awesome. Awesome. That's what you get with Naval X, by the way. Squirrels everywhere. It's all squirrels. It's all squirrels. All right, I'm going to let Mike hit this. What time is it? What time is it? All right. I don't want to do what the organizers did to everyone else all day. I'm just joking. Sorry, Chris. All right. So I'm going to let Mike get in here, but I need to see more tweets up here. I need to see some, not that one, all right? I need to see someone who shaved the eyebrow. I did that. I shaved the lines in the eyebrow, Vanilla Ice style. That happened in my life, okay? It was cool. Shut up. It was freaking cool, man. All right? Ice, man. Yeah, sing a different Ice song. Sing a different Ice song. No, don't do that. Sing a different Ice song. All right. All right, I'm going to give this to Mike, and then I want to hear an awesome story from this person who was brave enough to post an awesome pic. Yes. Yes. Yes.
So I will say that if you want to know a really funny story about a mosh pit, ask me about mosh pit Green Day when they were playing in the clubs after this.
We're not going to say it now?
Oh, I'll say it now. Fine, that's fine. Yeah, okay. The mosh pit. Okay, so right before Green Day got big, it was like right before Green Day got big. So in a mosh pit for Green Day, and so Tank. Unfortunately, I had a bad experience with a mosh pit. I had somebody who really just did not adhere and respect the rules of the mosh pit. So got into the mosh pit, and like 5 seconds after I got into the mosh pit, the guy was like, I'm going to pick you up and I'm going to squeeze you in a certain part of your body, lift you up, and then toss you. Yeah, that was a fun day. So I sat on the side for like 5 songs after that. That sucked. That was a bad day. But it was a good show, like overall. I mean, like Green Day was awesome.
Was Green Day your favorite, or was it in the top 5, or what?
At that time, I liked Green Day. Yeah, it was like before they got really big with like the album Dookie, and yeah, so yeah, it was like right around when Dookie came out. Anyway, Dookie.
It was just before Dookie came out. It was like coffee hour.
Dookie. So what's really cool about Washington, D.C., I'll just say this real quick. So, the hub of our federal government. But what's also cool about Washington, D.C. is also the birth of a major part of punk rock. If you all are familiar with the band Fugazi, they are from here. Discord Records hailed from here, and that was one of the most influential record labels in punk rock. If you've ever heard Fugazi, you're missing out. You gotta buy like several Fugazi albums and just like give yourself 2 days locked into like a room. Phenomenal band, And what was really cool about Fugazi years ago when they were around, they stopped touring, was that they charged $5 for every show. It was never, and it was like $9.99 for like a CD. They could have charged like $15, $16 for that. They could have actually sold out to a major record label. They never did. They just stayed independent. And that was that work ethic, that DIY work ethic. They just stayed at it. They did what they needed to. They did the independent thing, and they owned their own destiny. So respect to them. And they were, Ian MacKaye, who was the kind of the front man for that group, only musician that I've actually been starstruck meeting. I was like, when I literally, it was like, Mr. MacKaye, Ian, you are like a god. I love you. And I just walked away. I didn't even look him in the eye. I was just like, I didn't even look him in the eye. I was just like, oh my gosh, you were like, and he was like, and when you read about Ian MacKaye, he's like one of the most humble people in the world. So I remember him just saying, like, probably was just looking at me like, you're weird. Like, he just said, thanks. So Fugazi, check them out. And I just think it's kind of ironic that one of the, Washington, D.C., the hub of our federal government, a lot of people like to call it the swamp. I don't think it's the swamp. I think it's more like it's, we have some bureaucracy we have to work through, but there's also the independent DIY. There is that counterculture that kind of mirrors what DEF is, and that is in Discord Records.
What's literally built on the swamp, though?
Yes, the Potomac.
So some days it's a swamp, some days I think it's a spark. So it depends on your perspective and where you are. So I'm here because I'm mohawked in this picture. My name's Trish. I'm from Colorado, and that was circa 1985. Yes, I'm that old. And I was actually in a band at that time, and not to upstage the Foreskins, but I was the drummer in a band. I was the only girl, and all the rest of the guys, and the name of our band was Rear Entry. So don't know, so I see some similarities, but so if we're kind of looking back and tying this back to how punk rock ties and shapes to Innovators, I would say that when I was in that band, I was just back there kind of keeping a rhythm, keeping a beat. I didn't run the show, but it couldn't go without me. And I think that's a lot of what innovation is. And two, I'm going to admit, saw a lot of punk shows, opened for a few cool punk bands, including the Dead Kennedys. Awesome. My highlight, my moment. And I could only understand what the singers were singing probably 25% of the time if I hadn't already memorized the lines from the lyrics. So again, like Innovators, the people around us may not understand what we're saying all the time. But if we kind of keep at it, eventually they will be reading our liner notes and they'll get it. They're not the enemy because they don't get it, because they're still buying a ticket to the show. Okay, that's it. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, we've gone considerably over, as I expected. This is how we go over. All right, before you tweet, we're going to actually do part 2 of the quantum computing thing, so we're going to start on that now. So anybody else want to get up here? Because Luke Shabro was supposed to be here as well, so anybody can be Luke. Anybody want to be Luke? All right, Luke.
I got you.
All right. Tell us about how rock music and or punk rock, Luke, have influenced you and led you to be part of the Army Mad Scientist Initiative.
So Army Mad, it's really an interesting thing. So when I used to play Kylo Ren cosplay, and I played in a band, we were the Death Star Sabers, and it really influenced me to take most of that to the Army. And just like most things in the Army, they had no idea what I was talking about, but they just signed off on it. So it was great. It was honestly great.
That was 1,000% accurate. Thank you, Luke. Thank you, Luke. There's like 3 Army people here this week, so we've taken some lumps. All right, so I'm going to cut this unless anybody else wants to chime in on some awful mosh pit story. No? No stories? No stories of getting hot piss thrown in your face, right? That's a Henry Allen story. All right, so with that, I'm going to do a toast. So please rise. To small communities, to DEF, to punk rock, to metal, to unconventional. Cheers!